the head of strategic partnerships at Youth Parliaments of Kenya. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Wajiko Thiga is the National Youth Caucus chairperson of the DCP party, and she joins us as well in the hot seat. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Good for us to have these conversations, because previously we just say, well, there's everything and then there's youth. There's, it's like a salad that goes on the side. You have your main course and there's got to be a veg somewhere. So let's throw in the youth, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the conversation that we have without realizing the importance and the power that we should actually recognize, and that what we should do in a strategic manner of how to have an all-involved conversation. But before we get into it proper, we go into a different African country every week. We come back with proverbs from that country. And Dennis is sharing those proverbs this week. He'll tell you where they're from, and we'd like to get your interpretations both of what this proverb is.
Yes, we are in a country where when they say Moramutse, you say Moramutse Neza. It is a home of mountain gorillas, and it is one of the greenest countries and cleanest, not only in Africa, but across the world. It is a country where suffered genocide, over 800,000 people died, continues to be a history that cements that country together, because today you go to Rwanda, they are just Rwandese people. They don't identify by their ethnic groups. And the proverb today, a tree planted by God is not uprooted by the wind. The tree planted by God is not uprooted by the wind. Ladies first.
Oh, wow. Just thinking fast and on my feet, I think this proverb, what it means, it's how rooted are you? Mm-hmm. And either you're rooted in, or your foundation is built on integrity, on transparency, on accountability, especially in this space of leadership, then you can't be bought. And we've seen very many young people selling the Kenyan youth dream, the African youth dream. And looking even now at Africa and, at large, we look at President Traore and what he's doing to liberate his country. Mm-hmm. And that is a man who's rooted in his dream, a solid dream. So for me, what it rings a bell is, and it reminds me why I'm the National Youth Chair for DCP Party. Okay. I must deliver the dream for the young people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, just like she had said, it was actually kicking in my mind. Now I'm thinking of trying to expand that. So we are looking at what are the values that we have been raised in our communities, families back in time, right? There has been, of course, different generations coming in, and but when we go back, what were the foundations that we were built upon? So it is very paramount and very important that we do not actually leave the values that we have been raised by. And once you actually embrace those particular values and you stick to them and they are by heart, there is nothing, whether it is a storm that comes from different sides, they will not be able to wash you away. You are grounded.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's great. Your roots go deep. And that's why when you see, that just reminds me that when I think about the severe floods that took place in Malawi a few years ago, and we saw trees that had been in the ground for years, then being uprooted by this force of nature. But it wasn't that they were uprooted, it was that the devastating nature of that uprooting and what it did, it just shows you how deep it actually went. But that something can come along and destroy that root, then I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. So I guess that forms the basis for what we talk about this morning. That how grounded are we when it comes to the search for good governance, when it comes to the search for involvement in essentially what is going to color the future? That when we think about the youth perspective and when we think about youth involvement in the country, we think about what sometimes, unfortunately, what is contributing to the entertainment sector, who is doing the latest trend of I don't know what, and when we take in things like social media now, then who is, top of the charts. But it goes a lot deeper than that. now that we have discourse around what young people are doing to be involved in governance, that we have discourse around what young people are doing to make sure that this future that we talk about actually will exist.
Yeah.
You know, and that the people who rule today, in most cases, in many countries, started off as young people. The people that we quote and write about today started off as very, very young people. So the responsibility is great, but the question is, and let's start off from that, are we ready with this number one greatest population percentage in the population? With this future lies and rests on your shoulders, with this don't be compromised by the status quo because you have a loud voice. Are we ready to actually face the future in terms of in the next 20 years, in the next 10 years? It is who will take the mantle. Are we ready? Start off with you.
Yeah, thank you. What a deep way to start this conversation. And what I would honestly say and frankly say is that we are not yet there as young people. Have we increased our political visibility? Definitely, yes. But I need young people to understand that politics is a science. And that's why it's studied, really. And that that politics exists in an ecosystem. It's a system. And young people have to understand we must get into the system and run it. It's difficult to run a system on your outside. So how can we get into the system and run it? It's exercising our political voice. And how do we exercise our political voice? It's through political parties. As young people, 2022, we didn't show up to vote. So that's why I know young people have a disillusionment with this leadership. They can't identify with it because they did not choose it. So I know young people understand that they must wake up to vote. But the devil in politics is at the nomination stage. So how do young people get to nominate the leaders who will be in the ballot in August? Young people must join political parties because nominations are carried through party lists. That's when we get to sift the leaders that we get for elections during the ballot. That's when that's where young people have to understand that's where the dealers, the thugs, get to rig the system early on and at set. What am I doing? I'm doing a good job in creating a political ecosystem for young people at the DCP party. Good thing is that we have over 5 young people within the NEC. So we are the decision makers. And I'm grateful because my party leader listens. When we go on the ground, because we are doing campaign rallies, I'm not usually the person to talk every time. We give the mic to young people. Can the young people say what they want and what do they want from the political party? Number 2, what are the bills and the acts that are supporting the ecosystem of governance and leadership? Also, like my friend has said here, what is the socialization process of leadership? Even as a person in our society, you're told when you're young, ukienda shule nitakununulia sweetie. We already start corruption in small ways. Ukinifanyia hivi nitakubaya hii. So when people, it is a culture, behavior that I have to be given something so that I can do something. And that's why corruption goes and grows into this clandestine magnitude that we have in our country today.
But has it been shed? And I think we can both seep into that. Has that really been shed? And it's interesting that because we just had a talk around that over coffee this morning, and we said, you know what? Why is it that we see that it's so easy to compromise? Is it because we have latent issues whereby they're bread and butter issues? So if a young person has an agenda for better governance, it's so easy to nitakubaya sweetie ukisema hivi na hivi. But we see that exact thing happening already. That people who would have ordinarily risen and say, you know what, I am a natural born leader, and then all I do is I take. And I run with people who can help me with policy, who can help me with governance issues, and we run with this thing. But the compromise is then very clear in the eyes of people. Why is it so easy at the same time to compromise people who would ordinarily be youth leaders? Why?
Okay. Believe me, just like my colleague here has said, I don't really believe we young people are ready.
Okay.
And that is because, just even going by the saying that we started with, to get leaders who are honest, who are with integrity, leaders who can become accountable. What we have had and seen for a very long time is young people learning from the worst of them all. And therefore, what is happening? They are learning to perfect the art, the very wrong art. And at this particular moment, should there be a mistake of having young people in these leadership roles? I don't agree that a leader is born. A leader can be born, but a leader has to be made. The making process has to actually happen. This making process is where we are looking out at, okay, this is the kind of character we are seeing exhibited in you. We need to work on this, we need to work on this, we need to work on this. Companies are running by the values. They are very strict on integrity issues. When they find you having committed fraudulent activities, you will be sent home, and even worse, you'll be jailed. But now you see, we are having young people who are vocal, and they say, we are ready. I'm not too young. We can lead. But we need to go back to the basics.
One would ask the question, when you talk about the issues that you've raised, you've raised something that is very critical, that young people are not ready. But then again, there is the aspect of there is no mentorship from would-be the senior politicians in terms of bringing up a constituency of youth who would take leadership after they're done. Because let's face it, even if you get to parliament right now, the average age of the parliament of Kenya today is around 49 years. You know, those are relatively young people. But you look at the mentoring that went into these individuals getting to power, and that is not clear. You're saying the young people are getting in to perfect the worst that there is. Then as young people today, how do we ensure that we are ready? How do we ensure that these positions that are there, we're getting in and changing it for the better? Because let's face it, power is never, ever given. You fight for it. So, but with that, there has to be organization for young people to take these positions and speak in unison. So how do we ensure that youth are not compromised, that they are ready, and that mentorship, even if we don't get it from the senior, we find a way of just beating the system.
So I'm glad because Wanjiku here says she's creating a political ecosystem within the DCP party. At the Youth Parliament of Kenya, we are also keen on that. And we agree on one thing, that not all people can actually become leaders in political roles. We have leaders in communities. We want to see change makers in the communities as well, right? And it still trickles down, whether you're a politician or you're just a leader within the community frameworks. The aspects of values are very important. We just need to get back to the basics. Now, most political parties, DCP is quite new. We do not understand much about what it is aiming for. But when you look at the other political parties that have been there for a very long time, we have seen scores of young people going under these particular wings, right? And what we have seen more is for them to become choir boys and choir girls. Right? They are not actually given a listening ear to actually contribute something. It's not that they do not have something to contribute. They have. But people are already in decision-making seats and they cannot give that particular room.
Cannot or will not?
Will not.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why?
It is either you align with what we are working or we show you the door. So this is what we have been running by, and this is how you need actually to abide by. But if you have some, because I'm seeing young people coming in with the energy, they say like, this is a political party that has been there for years. I think we can come and inject something new into this system. But I'm looking at a patient who is already infected. The whole blood system in the body has been affected by poison. What are the guarantee that you just come and inject something like 20% that particular person will be purified? It will not happen. Eventually, it will take time, but they will still die. We need to go back, find mentors that are credible, right? At the Youth Parliament of Kenya, one thing that we know is this. We are young, we are impressionable, right? We are strong. But you see, that energy also needs to be channeled in the best way. Else we will have an explosion. So we have been looking at experienced individuals, technocrats, in different areas that we are working on, and we are bringing them as advisory members to the Youth Parliament of Kenya.
So Wanjiku, at DCP, you sit there, but there are 5 young people who sit at the neck. One would ask, are you there to just tick the box? Are you there to just be seen? Are you there to be heard? And what are the intentional maneuvers that have been put within the party so that a young person would get into that party and make the relevant changes that they want in the government that they want to form next? Because let's face it, DCP wants to form government, right?
Yeah.
So then how are conversations taking place with the young people to ensure that they sit at that table?
Thank you for that question. And I'd like to build on what he was talking about in your question. I'm a product of mentorship. I am here today because of mentorship. I ran for office in 2022, and I know the cost of a dream in a broken system. And that goes back to the Campaign Financing Act. And we'll talk about that later. But what is DCP Party doing? And to ensure that the space of young people, it's not lip service, but it's reality. And granted, we are just maybe a month old, but what is in the pipeline and what are we planning? And what happens at the decision-making table? I can tell you for a fact that I've been heard, and the things that I've put on the table, placed on the table, are being implemented, and you will see. From how our political party launch will be done to how we are moving into the grassroots systems. I would say that DCP Party has county coordinators. But with the county coordinators, we are having youth county coordinators shadowing the political party coordinators. This is direct mentorship for young people across the 47 counties. So that is for sure that by the time 2027 is coming to an end, we will have 47 strong young politicians that will be born through DCP Party.
Can I stop you and ask you a few questions
Yes.
here? So if we're talking about a system that's broken, right? If we're talking about a system whereby we have a majority of the individuals who are chasing personal or political expediency over and above any kind of ideological foundation, then what are young people shadowing? If we are saying the system is broken, and you've told me just now that you have in every county people who are being shadowed by, from what we can see, folks who don't have any kind of ideological grounding, then what we are doing is that we are putting people back into the system who are just shadows of a broken system.
Okay.
So what are we doing? We are just doing the same thing over and over again. But then now what we're doing is that we're imprinting that on a younger generation of people who sadly, in this case, sadly and scaringly, are in the population. So we're regurgitating bad behavior. We are regurgitating folks who are getting into government for political expediency. We are regurgitating people who probably come in a broken system. Remember, we've said that this is a broken system, and we are shadowing people to come in and to eat the same food, drink the same water, and then we want to say miraculously
They will be fine.
where they're going to be people who are ready for good governance. How on earth?
I'm taking
is
your
that going to
challenge,
happen?
and I want to say this. Rarely are the worthy given the limelight. It's always the wealthy. So there's a chance that you don't know the 47 county coordinators that we do have. There is that chance.
What's the ideology that this is based on? And I'm going to take this from ideologies. We're looking at whether we talk about socialism, whether we're talking about capitalism, where we had extreme ideologies before, where we talk about totalitarianism and authoritarianism, where people actually came and did some crazy stuff previously. Then we had, which gave rise to dictators and total autocrats. But then what are the ideologies that these things are based on today? Are we saying economic development is front and center? Are we saying that good governance and leadership is the mantle that must be taken? What are we actually saying? Or does it just sound sexy that we need to have youth in government?
I know it's a sexy thing at the moment. Even it was at 2022. But with this time round, we actually have the intention and want to implement that. And already implementing that. You've asked me what ideologies this is based on, and let me go back to my political party, because that's where the ecosystem exists. Our ideologies are equality, inclusivity, and justice. And justice, we're talking about not only social justice, we're talking even about economic justice. Because at the moment right now, there are three things that are crippling young people or the young people within our country. It's the shrinking civic space. It's the economic hardships that young people are going through, and it's the mental health. And this mental health is just being caused by how young people are not able to relate with a leadership that doesn't listen to it. DCP party is rooted in participatory democracy. And that is really implemented, because when I prompted my party leader and said, we must have young people being mentored. And that's when the youth county coordinators came up. And that's why I've asked, what kind of county coordinators are we having? What are the ideologies? So they had also to be vetted. What kind of person you are? And let's talk about this. We're coming from a place of being, being impeached. My party leader is coming from a place of being impeached. So, of course, he needs people who are loyal, who are trustworthy, who are rooted in their own ideologies and their beliefs, that I can't be offered money to move. So, are you in this CP party to serve the party ideologies, or are you here to serve your own interest? So they had to go through vetting. I have been part of that process of vetting, especially the young county coordinators and also the county coordinators. So what are we doing? Yes, truly it's a broken system. And that's why we are saying, and what my friend here said, sometimes we have good leaders within this system, but they're overrun. You're asked, you either implement, as you are saying, or you get out. But if we have the majority, and let me go back, we only have 6% of young women in parliament today. We will give a good and exemplary example of Honorable Njeri Maina. She does an exemplary job. You've seen she has even defied a party position. Like even with the finance bill, she defied a party position and voted no to the finance bill. But how many young women exist? How many young people can hold each other's hand within a system and say, we are going to overrun it? We are all saying no to this. So what are we doing? We are building young people who are going to go into county assemblies and national assemblies. And where the devil exists again in the nomination process, because that's what happened to me again in 2022. I was ripped out. And Kenyans still vote along party lines. They don't really look at independent candidates. People still don't vote according to party lines. So we have to make sure as a party that the people who get through the nomination process, again, they're people with good standing, with character.
I'd like to take a break, but then we come back and debunk this whole thing about people who vote along party lines. Because we know for a fact that in the country today, if all of us are in one political party and one of us then gets elected president or vice president, and somewhere along the lines we fall apart, guess what I'm going to do next? I'm going to go and I'm going to form my own political party.
Yes.
So it's not along party lines. It's the individuals today and it's their interests that are running things. So how are we going to say that this majority of the population is going to move away from this thing and based on ideals? We'll come back and discuss that as we continue this conversation this morning. We're looking into governance and leadership, and we're taking into consideration the youth perspective this morning. Pascal and Wajiko are here with us, the national youth leader of the DCP party, as well as the Vice President of Kenya Youth Parliament. We continue with this conversation at 23 minutes to 8 now. We'll be back after this.
This is the situation.
Wana is a VP and head of strategic partnerships at the Youth Parliament of Kenya. I'm told that demonstrative article is very important, and he'll tell us again. Wajiko Thiga is the National Youth Caucus Chairperson of the DCP party, and we're having a conversation this morning around the youth perspective, as we normally do Fridays. But we come to the place that how are we going to be able to we've seen the trend that if I'm not happy, I'm in a party with you today, and if I'm not happy, I can just go form my own party. Because, we need another vehicle. That unfortunately, the idea, and we can look into history, and I think it's very important that we do, because these things that we use today, political parties, whatever, they have been given, they are methodologies that we adopted. And the people who came up with the idea of a political party hundreds and hundreds of years ago based this on the idea that it was an ideology that you all had and that you concerted and said, okay, whether it is to make sure that there's no poverty, and so it's an ideology wrapped around the economy, that's what we are going to go for. But we have it now that a political party is just an instrument for an individual to get to the top. We've bastardized it to an extent. So, and we are saying that within this system, youth should just come and tag on or hang on to that. And the question is, how is that going to work? Pascal?
Well, many young people that actually do under these wings, it's because they don't have resources that they need to run for their office. And so you'll find that they will be willing to actually leave some part of very important core values that are important to them, just so that they can actually be taken under wing and probably even be funded. I know of a good friend of mine that was leading a very vibrant youth league. And he was nominated as a member of parliament. He came and introduced some bills which were actually going to make sure that young people have an easy time when it comes to actually making applications for job opportunities. Because at that particular time, I remember, if you remember, there was a lot of criteria or requirements that a person was needed to actually meet before they apply for a job. You are applying for a job and you're going to spend close to 5,000 to 10,000 for a job you're not even sure you're going to be listed on for. So he went to parliament, proposed a bill. It was actually passed into law. But when you look at it right now, we are still back where we were some few years ago. Right now, they are still asking for the same requirement. So the question I'm asking is, where are we getting it wrong, right? So at the Youth Parliament of Kenya, we are very keen on being non-partisan. We want to try this out in a different way by not aligning to a particular party. We want to go back to the basics, right? We just like Wanjikui has said, they are creating the roots into the 47 counties. But one thing that I have also come to notice is Wanjiku, I don't know, forgive me for this, but you will always pick the most vibrant people in these 47 counties, and then you will have boardroom meetings in Nairobi. But what about that young person in the village? He's a computer science graduate, but since he's not aware of what these things that are happening, he cannot get such an opportunity. So we want to actually go into the grassroots, give these young people an opportunity. What we want to understand is this. You, as an individual, know where the shoe pinches the most, the challenges that you're going through. So at the Youth Parliament of Kenya, what we've created is a platform where young people, one, they will actually come and brainstorm on the challenges that they are going through. Number two, we are telling them, now here is the platform or room. We want you to actually come up with ideas. What are the solutions to the challenges you have raised? Many a times, what we have seen, even non-governmental organizations, they come with already predetermined solutions in their mind. And they are coming to implement that. But the problem is this. These solutions needs to be customized to the places that they are going to be implemented. You cannot take an idea that is working in Machakos and you want to go and implement it in Bungoma. These are two different places and there are things that are different. So what we are saying is this. We want young people to be stakeholders of creating solutions to their own challenges, right? And therefore, we are also giving this particular, what we have done is we are simulating the national government structure, right? And that is how we are getting into the grassroots. The main reason for that is when a young person, we are not going to wait until we come under a political party like DCP for a young person to actually see, this is how I can execute my role within this. We are creating that platform for them. You are a member of county assembly in this particular location. What are your mandate? So what we are doing is we want to see what are your ideas? What is there? How are you going to execute? And that is where we are now coming to the basics of trying to reignite back the core values that matter a lot, right? And here we are also having a scorecard. How is your performance? 3 months later, 4 months later, you get 2 yellow cards, you have a red card. The third time, we are having another person to step in who can actually be able to deliver. The last thing we will want is young people who are compromised. And, sometimes you can give a benefit of a doubt to someone. You wait, you work with them for a long period and hoping that actually what I was seeing probably was because of one or two reasons, but they can overcome that. But there are people who, no matter how many chances you give them, they can never overcome the challenge that they're going through.
All right.
So we are not discarding them, but we are telling them, we need to take you through a process. A leader is not just born, a leader has to be made. So the making process is what we are also doing.
Yeah, and Onjiku, now, all political parties run on values, right? If you look at 2022, there are values and all the aspirations and promises that are given to Kenyans. The reason why young people actually voted for the current government. Now, you look at the DCP, even our listeners are saying, if the party leader was not impeached, DCP would not exist today. Would still be living and going through whatever it is that is happening. So then, how do we disassociate ourselves, young people, from individuals? Because you look at ODM, people say Raila Odinga owns ODM. Look at UDA, it is William Ruto. DCP, it is Rigathi Gachagua. So how then do we have these parties to be the party for the people, run by the people, the youth being important stakeholders in this? Because one would say, one would argue and ask you a simple question. Are you fighting within DCP because Rigathi Gachagua has given you the powers to go fight?
Okay.
Or are you fighting within the party for the position of youth because you are a youth and an important shareholder in that party?
Thank you for that question. Before DCP party existed, I existed. I have done my work 10 years supporting young people, ensuring that young people are woke. I have done my part. I've worked across counties, training young people on how to use social media to be able to agitate for their rights. So I have done my part even before Rigathi Gachagua knew I existed. And it's the track record of what I've done, what I've been able to achieve, and how I've built my capacity that has been able to give me this platform and opportunity. And young people do make sense. It can't be about people. Parties cannot be about people. And for me, and what I've experienced is that people keep talking about Rigathi Gachagua when it comes to DCP party. But that is just one element of DCP party.
Important element.
It's a critical element, but it's just one element. But we have structures. We have the NEC, we have the NDC, we have the Women League, we have the Youth League, we have the legal docket. So my work and what I'm trying to educate young people is that DCP party is an institution. It's the political party institution. And for us, we are building a party that will stand the test of time. Because we've seen, and what we've said here in our conversation, it's always been about people. But now we want to build, because our party is rooted in participatory democracy. And what I want to tell you is that sisi ni watu wa kusikiza ground. So even our political manifesto for the young people will be built by young people, what their voices in Mashinani are saying. Because that's the only way. It reaches a time when we must honestly do the work.
Okay.
So it has reached a time that 2027, we must do the work. We must address what's happening with the young people. We have to take care of the young people. And young people are not incapacitated. It's just that system has always been rigged against them. And I know the UDA regime promised to take care of these issues, and it has failed.
Okay. So what issues are these? When we talk about, participatory governance, we talk about citizen-centered governance. What is it that we want? And, my dad used to say that in order for you to know where you're going, you need to, in order for you to achieve something, you need to know the reason why. Or you need to at least know where you're going with something. What's the reason? What are the things that we say that because now we are participating and we are, having conversations with those who are in leadership, for what? What is it that we want to achieve? Because that could then also, if you know the why, then the what then makes sense. But why? What for?
I think...
Okay, the most important thing is this, that we need to know. Many young people are coming up and offering themselves to lead the rest of them, of the young people.
I'm going to stop you, Pascal.
Sure.
Because my question is, for what? Do we want a better Kenya? Do we want corruption to stop?
I was getting there.
I want for, yeah.
Okay. So it only takes a leader who has carried a burden for the rest of the young people. And the statement that I said is that show young people that you care for them, and you don't need to tell them, follow me. They will follow you.
Okay.
So carry it as a burden. And sometimes that is really difficult, because for most people, it is an interest that they are in for. And so that interest will always get in the way of them to be actually real leaders that cause an impact. So for us, it is about having a burden. Honestly, what has been happening in the last few weeks, when I just listen to what is going on, I shed a tear. I mean, I'm that kind of a person that I think I have a shell, like a tortoise. But unfortunately, I have come to succumb to what I'm seeing. It's really sad. So if it comes to a point where it breaks you as a person to say, I really need to see change. So our young people is our focus. There is no platform for them. And even when that platform is created and they say, come, they are being invited on the table, that table becomes a place where other interests are tabled and not exactly what they're supposed to bring there. So for us, we are saying we are creating our own table, right? Come, let us deliberate. Let us come up with what we want to achieve, and let us work on them. So as just like I mentioned earlier on, the process of making of a leader, and the way we actually brought on the advisory committee, I can just mention one or two examples. We are looking at this particular area of policy and good governance, leadership policy and good governance. We looked around and we say, who can actually be able to fill in that particular shoe as an advisory member, so that young people can actually be shaped to become the leaders that we want. We went for Professor P.L. Lumumba, and we have had a conversation. It was 7 minutes into the conversation. He said, speak no more. I know where you guys are coming from, where you are going. I am in. I will work with you. You know what the kind of energy that he carries. I'm looking at these young people that we have given opportunities across the country. We are forming a conferences or summits, and they're coming and they're being given some talks with the caliber of P.L. Lumumba. This is going back to the basics to now actually make you understand what is it that you are built from.
Okay.
I will want to answer you
Yes.
word for.
Yeah.
And the dream is to implement the constitution fully. Is that devolution works, and that funding goes to the county promptly, not as it's usually delayed. Is to have separation of powers and to have institutional independence. Is to implement the 2/3 gender rule. Is to ensure social and economic rights are really held to. Is to ensure that freedom of political rights, of worship, of anything that as a young Kenyan you want. That's what we want. And that's the dream. And I know that's the dream of young Kenyans. And that's the dream for the DCP party. We must ensure that we have to achieve that dream so that Kenya can move forward. We became a middle income country, and I feel that we are taking a lot of steps backward, and we can't afford to do that. The median age right now for young people is 19 years. So many young people are hopeless. Where I come from, I have about 3 young people who commit suicide monthly. It is a reality, and that is because they are hopeless. We have young people who are always thinking about migrating and taking their skills elsewhere. But we have to implement the dream, and that is implementing the constitutional fully.
Oko, if you can allow me, I think we need to look at the bigger picture and not just look at the short-term goals. Because many people right now, they are saying 2027, we totally need a regime change.
Yeah.
But I'm asking myself, and this is what we are doing at the Youth Parliament of Kenya, we need to work on a long-term plan. Where do we want to see this particular country in the next 10 years to come? Which kind of a country will our children come to inherit? And therefore, there is one particular thing that we have looked at, and we believe this is what we need to work on. We need to restore Kenya's constitutional sovereignty. Because I was making a comparative analysis between the 1776 declaration. The 7 founding fathers of the United States of America, they put down the declarations, and they established 2 institutions, the legislature and the judiciary. And what was supposed to happen is these 2 were supposed to protect the Constitution. It does not matter who comes into power, they will have to actually bow to that particular constitution. We have an amazing 2010 constitution when you look at it, when you read it. But now the problem has been there are referendums that come up which are meant to create loopholes for some specific things for people to benefit on that. We need to work on, we need to make sure that, I like what the Gen Z did in 2024 finance bill. They actually did read, walichambua your finance bill, ndani, nje. Then what did they do? They decided now we need to translate into the dialects. And now we have intergenerational collaboration onto something. And that's what we need also to do with the Constitution. How many, I've been talking to about 3 young people, and I was asking them a random question, how well do you know the Constitution? It's a wonder. People do not know what the Constitution is. The moment we understand what the Constitution says, we will fight to protect it. We will fight to restore its sovereignty, and we will have a solution to all these problems. No matter who comes into power, that Constitution will have to work. We need to build this strong institution, the judiciary and the legislature. They have to retain their independence and support the Constitution. That's what we need to do. But we need to go on a drive campaign across the country. If there is any civic education, this is the civic education that we need to do. People must know the Constitution.
If you have a packet of bad milk, you've put it in a pot, you realize that it starts to boil and the milk has gone bad, right? So what you do is that you then pour out half of it, okay? And then you've left still some bad milk in, all right? Then you get a packet of fresh milk and you add it to the pot. Remember, you still have the bad milk in the pot.
Yeah.
Does the fresh milk that you've put into the pot now sanitize the milk?
Definitely not.
What happens to the milk?
It goes
bad.
Because there's still bad milk in the pot,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So we've heard things that we've talked about, drain the swamp, do all this, it needs to happen. And when we talk about ideological perspectives that need to be taken into consideration, that is where I would wish, and I think many people would wish, that we say, it doesn't matter if you're a 80-year-old woman, a 90-year-old man, a 15-year-old girl, a 25-year-old young man who's starting business, that it is those ideological issues that need to be front and center. What we are saying is that the majority of the people who are then coming into the fray later need to plug into those. And that brings me back, that are the issues that matter front and center of this drive for more people, more youth to be part of the agenda? Are the issues front and center, or do we have people who just want to be like everybody else? You bring fresh milk, you add it to the pot, it still remains the same. Do we have people who are clicking into an ideology? Do we have people who are clicking into matters and issues that matter to say, this is how we're going to turn this thing on its head? Otherwise, we're adding fresh milk to an already bad pot of milk.
I don't know if you meant maybe restoring the sovereignty of the Constitution is draining a little bit of the bad milk and adding in something. Because I believe the solution that lies in this nation actually coming out from the hole that is in, that is the way we need to go. It does not matter. A lot of people out there are really good. But when we have a system that is working, then whatever ideologies and good things, the goodwill that they have, will come and work alongside this one, and we can actually have a good nation.
Sorry. You know, I've worked in this space for a while, and there are times you feel like, are we making good progress? And I remember speaking to my foresight skills lecturer, and she told me this: when Jacob, change is gradual. Change is gradual. I know that we have broken systems, broken people within the system, and that we are worried that should we bring in new, will they be corrupted? But that doesn't mean that we give up, because that's not an option. Our work is to ensure that we churn in as new good leaders as much as possible as we can, because it takes steps by step.
The fight is long and the fight is hard.
Yes, so we must continue. Yes.
And we can't take that for granted. But you know why it is important for us to keep chipping away at these things? Is that at the end of the day, lots of things come to the surface, and then we start to learn and say, it's not just a walk in the park. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There are historical perspectives to be taken into consideration. It has to be a genuine and original desire to actually bring bring about change and impact, and for everybody. But, that's why we talk, isn't it?
Yes.
And we want to thank you both for being here this morning, and we look forward to further conversations. Pascal Nabwana is the Vice President and Head of the Strategic Partnerships at the Youth Parliament of Kenya, while Jiko Thiga is the National Youth Caucus Chairperson of the DCP Party. Thank you for being here this morning. Asante. At 8:01. Good morning.